can't believe it, guys. Cannot believe what I just did. I just sold all my equipment. All my Canon gear. So I just met a guy downtown who bought all 3 of the Canon lenses that I've used for absolutely years. And I've thought about selling some of my Canon gear before and never had any success with it. I've always kind of just let it drop. But recently, it's kind of come up again that maybe I wanted to do that. So I put my speed lights on Facebook Marketplace, and within a day, they were gone. And I thought, wow. So I started putting the cameras on there. One of the cameras was sold within a couple of days, and I had 3 lenses. And yeah, one guy called me, well, he messaged me on Facebook, said, what would you take for all 3 of them? And so we made a deal. And I literally have a Canon 20D sitting in my studio right now. It's the last that I have of my Canon gear. And except for the X100V Fuji, that's the only camera I've got left. So the exciting thing is now I need to start searching for a new system. So I guess the big question I should answer first is, why did I sell off all my Canon gear? Well, let me start by saying this. From the time the world went digital, and even before that, I had a Canon film camera that we used a lot at weddings. But ever since the world went digital, I have been a Canon digital shooter. I've owned 3 different bodies, a bunch of different lenses, and I have always been very, very happy with Canon. I love my Canon cameras. I started with the Canon D30, which was, I think, their very first digital camera. It was a 3 megapixel camera. I used it professionally, loved it. It took beautiful pictures. Now, of course, it was slow and it was only 3 megapixels and it was a lot of different things, but it was a great camera. It produced really nice images. I upgraded to the 20D, and then I had the 5D. So I think the simple answer to why did I sell off all my equipment stems from it was just time to upgrade. It just really was. The 5D was a beautiful camera. I used it for many, many years. I was still using it for stock and events and commercial work. It was a great camera. But it was time to upgrade because it didn't do video. I'm starting to do a lot more video. Higher megapixels was, it wasn't a huge need to get to higher megapixels, but, to compete and to stay with where everybody's going, I think that was a need. The obvious answer to upgrading was to get a new Canon body. And I think I had a couple of choices there. I always thought the 5D Mark IV would probably be where I went. However, at this point, even that camera is a little outdated. It does shoot video. It's a 30 megapixel camera. It would probably meet a lot of my needs, but like I said, it's been around for several years. It's getting a little outdated as well, and from what I understand, Canon is not making a 5D Mark V. They're now going to the R cameras, I think. So I looked into the R camera, and I'm not going to act like I know all the options with those cameras, but I know the top of the line, 45 megapixels, probably does phenomenal video, would meet all my needs. The camera body alone was about just short of $4,000. So it's an expensive camera. Plus it has a whole new set of lenses. Now my understanding is you can use the old lenses with an adapter, but I've got mixed reviews as to whether that was good or bad. And so I just thought if I went that route, I'm going to be using, a less than stellar system as far as the lenses, unless I were to upgrade all the lenses. And so cost was my big factor to say no to that option. So if upgrading to the latest greatest Canon camera wasn't the route to go, that meant switching systems. And that, of course, was a little on the pricey side too, because I wasn't sure that the gear that I still owned was worth enough to kind of, help out the new cost. And I'd tried to sell my speed lights before. I've not always been completely thrilled with Canon speed lights, and I had tried to sell them before. Couldn't seem to do it. But for some reason, well, let me back up a little bit. I went into a camera store and I went on to keh.com. I don't know if you guys have ever been there, and I tried to get some value to what my equipment was worth. And the camera store here in Spartanburg gave me a number very similar to what I got off KEH, and I was surprised by how much my gear was worth. But in talking with the guy at the camera store here in town, he said, you know, you might be able to get a little bit more if you sell it yourself. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I don't want to go through that hassle. But my wife actually said, why don't you put it on Facebook Marketplace, see how it goes. So I started with the flashes, put them out there, and I probably had them sold the same day for 3 times what the camera store was willing to give me. So that kind of motivated me to try all the other gear. I had 3 lenses. I had a 17-40, an 85-1.8, and a 70-200. I put all those out there. I put the 5D and I put my 20D. And I would say within about 4 or 5 days I had sold everything for not significantly more than what the camera store was going to give me, but definitely more. The only thing I have left is my 20D, no lens. I had offers on, well, I had people interested in this camera, but nobody came through and bought this camera yet. KEH is willing to give me $18 for this. For $18, I'd rather have it sit on my shelf as a kind of a memento history, I don't know, decoration, if nothing else, for $18. So I'm still trying to sell that, but that was the last thing that didn't go in probably 4, maybe 5 days. And so since everything sold so quickly, I felt this was the right decision. So since the timing seemed to be right, since everything sold so quickly, I want to do a little disclaimer here that I'm a big believer that you only buy gear based on your needs, not your wants. If you're somebody that has a whole bunch of money and you can buy things just because you want the latest, greatest lens or whatever, then more power to you. I've not been in that situation where I can just buy toys. And since I sold off a lot of my equipment because it wasn't completely meeting my needs anymore, the new system that I had to look for had to meet the needs. And my needs have changed a little bit over the years. I still shoot a lot of stock photography, commercial work, some events, but I'm starting to do a lot more video. And of course this channel is a big part of that video need. But I'm also kind of playing around with the idea of promoting myself for video jobs, and I'll talk more about that in the future because I'm still kind of at the beginning stages of that and kind of filling that out. But video's a big part of the need. We'll get to what I bought here in just a second because some of it's back ordered and it hasn't all arrived. But I wanted to kind of answer the question as to why I sold off the Canon gear. Wasn't because I wasn't happy with Canon. Canon makes an amazing product. I've always been very happy with what they've done. So if you got questions, let me know, and yeah, I'll continue this video when all my new gear comes in and kind of reveal to you why I did what I did. So with my new camera being on back order, the camera bag's been a little lonely the last few days, but I think the FedEx guy just came and things got here a little quicker than I thought they were supposed to get here. But let's look what's at the door. Yes. Okay, so there's my big reveal. I'm replacing my Canons with the Fuji X-T4. Biggest reason I'm doing that is because number one, I love my Fuji X100V. Absolutely love that camera. I think having the X-T4 in my bag as well makes a lot of sense because they're both Fuji. Now the 2 flashes that I bought, I got the Godox V1s. I'm excited to get into those. Those are dedicated directly to Fuji. I can now use it with either camera. That just makes sense not to have 2 different systems. The X-T4 on paper and from what I'm seeing in reviews will meet my needs. Stellar photography, as far as stills, it will do well for me for stock photography, commercial photography, any event type stuff that I'm going to do. I think it'll meet those needs very, very well. And from what I'm understanding, it does a great job with video as well. It's got in-body stabilization, so hopefully I won't be as shaky as I've been in the past. And I think that it will meet the needs that I have as a photographer. Now, a couple things that I'm not quite sure about with this purchase is, number one, when I bought the Canon full-frame camera, I said I'll never go back to crop sensor. I was convinced at that time I'd never go back to a crop sensor, and here I've gone back to a crop sensor. So I'm not quite sure about that, but I think it's going to be just fine. I will say that I did not go back to a crop sensor because it's a smaller camera body or smaller lenses. To be honest with you, anybody who says I couldn't carry my full frame anymore because it's too heavy is just a big wimp, in my humble opinion. That's just me. You would have never made it in the film days with that attitude. So I didn't go back because it's smaller. That didn't do that at all. The other thing I'm a little bit concerned about, and not concerned isn't the right word, but you know, I'm going in, you know, maybe a little skeptical or a little nervous about it, is mirrorless. I know the world's going mirrorless, but the advantages to mirrorless don't excite me. Maybe once I get using it, I'll see the benefits and I'll like it more than I think I'm gonna like it, but we'll see how that goes. I will let you know. But for now, X-T4 from Fuji, some Godox flashes, yeah, new system. Kind of exciting. Yeah, I will certainly let you know how it goes. But to kind of end this little video, I'll show you a little bit of what I do on a daily basis. If you watch this channel, you know I'm a product photographer. I work for a company that we sell a lot of toys. And I was shooting sunglasses this week, so here's a little thing to take this video out. Thanks for watching. I will see you guys very soon, and we'll talk more about this camera gear. And if you got questions, let me know. Thanks, guys.